chosenone.com. Go visit chosenone.com. It's easy to remember if you just sing along. chosenone.com. Go visit chosenone.com. The chosen one, yes, he is the chosen one. He's got his own comic, and now he's got his own song. 'Cause he's the chosen one, yes, he is the chosen one. Go buy a copy at chosenone.com. chosenone.com. Go visit chosenone.com. It's easy to remember if you just sing along. chosenone.com. Go visit chosenone.com.
Welcome to Paranoid Pages, your portal to the thought-provoking world of underground comics out of print magazines and other rare media. We'll discover hidden gems up close and in detail to capture the magic of pictures and words combined. So, gather around, friends. This is Paranoid Pages.
That's right. Paranoid Pages. We're going to do something, hopefully, that's interesting today. First of all, if you're paying attention to the intro, Chosen One, this is the issue 1, Chosen One. Got an ad on the back for the MK Ultra Paranoid pamphlet. If you don't know what that is, go check it out on paranoidamerican.com or on Amazon. And you can check out issue 2 that's going to be dropping. Well, the campaign will be starting in the next week. So go to chosenone.com. You can sign up. There's going to be a bunch of cool exclusive stuffs. This is paranoidamerican.com. Thank you guys for watching. You can also check out the Occult Book Club. So we've been over a few different ones, and I'm just going to get to this one right off the bat because this one's interesting to me, and I've got a lot of stuff to show. So I want to get a guess like judge of how interesting some of these things are to everyone versus other stuff. I've got some older things, I've got some newer things. So without really knowing where to start, I'm going to just jump right into these guys. So everything we talk about today is going to be about Freemasonry. We've got some old copies of the Builder from 1919. I've even got this, I guess it's rare, but this Life magazine from the 50s, I believe. We'll look at this, and it's got some 1956, and it's huge. It's got some really huge pictures of Scottish Rite ceremonies, and anyways, we're to look at that. If we got time, this is one of my favorite books on Freemasonry, Art and Architecture of Freemasonry. Definitely worth a look. And I don't even want to move my camera, but I've got a stack of books over here that could unalive somebody. Like it's that big. Freemason Punch Bowl, Masonry. We've got the Dictionary of Freemasonry. We've got the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. This one I've shown on a couple different streams. This one is one of the coolest books that I've got on Masonry. Shout out, Don. Thanks for coming, checking it out. Got a lot of other content. This one's going to be deep, way deeper than most of the other ones so far. And the reason why I like this one so much is because it breaks down morals and dogma, but it does so with like 1970s comic book style. It's really, really unique. I can't recommend this one enough. And then for anyone these are the best comments I ever get, where people are like, have you ever even read Morals and Dogma? I mean, it's not an OG version, but it's a pretty damn old version. It's unabridged. So yeah, I've read Morals and Dogma. It's not an easy read. It's not a fun read. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone unless you've just got a lot of time and you've got other sources of information that you can use to look into some of the things that are said in it. I've also got this revised edition for the Ancient Book of Scottish Rite. This one's kind of interesting. It's got music. It's got ceremony. There's nothing secret in any of these books. These are all available to the public. So it's not like you're going to find some secret handshake, although those are also online if you just look far enough. And then the Big Daddy, which I'm not going to get into completely today, But this is the one that if you already know what this is, then you've got a lot of credit already in my book. We can be best friends. If you don't know what this is, I don't blame you. This is one of the deepest Freemasonic satanic conspiracy books in existence, my opinion. And see this guy up here in the top left, Leo Taxel. This is an original edition. I'm gonna be real careful with it, hopefully. But this is an original edition of The Mysteries of Freemasonry. And in this book by Leo Taxel, and this one's dated 1887 down here. In this book, they make claims that Freemasons are basically worshiping Baphomet. They're doing all of these horrific rituals. And this ends up becoming the source for so many different anti-Masonic claims over the next century plus. It starts pretty pretty tame. Here's a dude that's getting pushed into a coffin. We got like a little skull back here that's emitting light. Everyone's looking real fancy and dapper. But it's also got some really salacious ones. I can't just whip through this one as quickly as I would for a normal book. These pages can just like turn to dust if you're not really careful with them. Here's another version. There's some in here that are real evil looking, but I guess I'll save those. Yeah, this one's kind of crazy. It's like an Eyes Wide Shut party. So we'll do this one on its own episode because there's a lot of pictures to go through, and I'm even trying to find a version of Leo Taxel's Bible where he illustrates the entire. I think it's called like the Idiot's Bible or something. It's kind of silly, but yeah, this is one of my prized possessions, not based on worth, but just based on knowledge. And this represents such an important part of history that nobody really even knows about. So, anyways, Leo Taxel. We'll get into that one some other time. We're going to start first with the small and we'll work our way up to the big. How's that? And then, oh yeah, shout out Scottish Rite. This is the calendar they sent this year. Order Abdicayo. If you're a hardcore conspiracy theorist, then you think that means the Hegelian dialect, you create chaos, therefore you can create order out of it. The official company line is that when the Scottish Rite was founded, or at least when it was standardized, largely in part to Albert Pike, writer of Morals and Dogma, that Freemasonry was in a state of absolute chaos, and that through his efforts and the efforts of the Supreme Council, they created order out of that chaos. So that's the official company line. Up to you on which one you wanted to believe. But yeah, here's their badass library. I don't know if I can get rid of that light. There we go. So here's the library. It's got one of the many Scottish Rite libraries. DC. Here's a stained glass that's in DC. Here's an insignia. Another shot from inside DC. I guess this is all DC. Yeah, it is. So and anyone can go. If you ever go to DC and you're bored, or if you want something else to do, you can go and get the whole tour. It's pretty cool. These ones are really interesting. Let me flip this light back on. So I'm gonna also zoom in. These are called New Age Magazine, and I don't think it exists anymore, and I think it went through a few different name changes. I'm not a complete historian on New Age Magazine in particular, but these were basically made for Scottish Rite Freemasons in particular. So we start September, October. I don't even know if they're in order. November. I guess they are. January. So let's just see what's in a couple of these. So this one is talking about from the official poster of the Limited States Constitution. And this one's from September of 1970. It's a little bit of a rough shape. The cover's like almost completely off. He who bends down to help little children raises himself and lifts them to faith and confidence. It's an interesting quote there. They do a lot of charity work, although it's not really what interests me. One of my hot takes is that Freemasons have kind of diluted what they were originally after by focusing so much on charity work. But that's what happens when you turn into a networking group that constantly needs membership to survive, and you need PR campaigns. So this is just a little essay on the Constitution, the Feast of Tishri. So one of the things that people don't think about Freemasons is this. It's kind of, I've described it as like a chess club, but for people that care about like old and ancient texts more than chess. Like you don't just go out and hope you find someone in normal everyday life that also likes arcane text and esoteric knowledge. So the best you've got is go and find a subreddit or a forum, or in the case of Freemasons, chances are a large portion of people in a lodge at least care a little bit about it. So that's kind of one of the many reasons that people join, is just because it's kind of like a social club of people that care about like ancient Egyptian interpretations and how to apply to it modern day. It's not exactly something they teach in schools or have really popular clubs about. Words of a new initiate. So nothing too salacious in this one. They didn't give us the handbook to World War III like that's been claimed by Leo Taxel. Maybe it's in this one. This one sure does look creepier. And then let's just see what it says in here. Grand Commander's message. There's always going to be one of those. It's like the letters to the editor. Sail on by a 33rd. Look at all these contributors at 33, except for this guy's a 32. 33 is an honorable degree. Usually indicates you've done some kind of great work or great achievement. Although I think you can work yourself up to it too. Book reviews. So just I don't really see of any of the, I guess 30, page 33 of current interest. I guess that's speaking to us. Let's see what is of current interest in 1970 for Scottish Rite Freemasons. New Imperial Potentate. Okay, this is just like internal show off temple. Okay, it's just inside baseball stuff. Oh, this is kind of cool. They're talking about the seal of the California Supreme Court. Talking about an old Bible. Freemasonry and the Administration of Public School Education in Texas, 1861 to 1885. That sounds interesting. The rationale supporting the study is the belief in contributions of institutions and the progress, development, and growth of the United States. So this is J. Frank Thornton, 32nd degree, College of Education, Texas A&M. And I guess they did some research into how Freemasonry helped public education in the late 1880s. Just more inside baseball. A lot of this stuff you would care because, if you were voting for your dude, you were following like the internal politics of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. We're hunting for World War III plans. They're hiding them from us, so we're gonna find them. Cloaked in purple sounds interesting. Loan programs for higher education. 24, can Masonry survive? I'm interested to see what they're saying in 1970 about Freemasonry surviving or not. The first Thanksgiving. Dear Jim, book reviews. All right, let's look at 24. I want to see what they're talking about. Can Freemasonry survive? What's the big deal? That's crazy. This is 50 years ago already. Can Masonry survive? Same difference, essentially. Masonry, Freemasonry, potato, potato. Seems to me there's a basic and fundamental question we should ask ourselves. Can Masonry survive? Can this, oh, wow, that's okay. He's going right after it. It is simply, can Masonry survive? In a larger sense, what I'm asking is, can this nation survive? So this guy, let's see, 32nd degree, Honorable John Fuqua the third. This is like Council of Kadash or something. I don't remember all the acronyms off the top of my head. But basically he's equating the survival of Masonry with the survival of the nation itself, which sounds dramatic, but that's pretty popular concept for a lot of Freemasons. Those questions are one and the same. Yep, don't ever make the mistake of believing they are not, for the very forces that seek to destroy this nation also seek to destroy the precepts upon which the fraternity was founded. So look, even within Freemasonry, there's a concept of conspiracy, that there's these forces, right? These forces are out to get Freemasons, and they don't define it necessarily. So I mean, they're no strangers to conspiracy theories. inside or outside the lodge. As Masons, we're taught to not regard a man for his material wealth or station in life, but for the man himself. Those who wear the white leather lambskin of a master Mason are joined in a brotherhood where there's no high and there's no low, only brothers. This is the one that's hard for a lot of people to digest because they always consider, oh wow, a high-ranking Freemason. But it says right here, once you get Master Mason and you've got your white leather lambskin apron, you're essentially the same degree as anybody else. The best analogy that I can come up with has been that the different degrees outside of the third, so degree 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 32, those are kind of just like Cub Scout badges. So you learn to tie a knot, bam, you get a degree. You learn to identify a poisonous berry, bam, you get another degree. And it doesn't mean that you're higher or lower than anyone. It might mean that you're a little bit more traveled, right? Because you've got a bunch more badges. We respect one another. We believe in blah, 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 blah. So anyways, yeah, can Freemasonry survive? Let's see. The young people of today, 1970s. Let's just imagine the person writing this is probably, I don't know, 40s, 50s at best, probably a little bit older. So they were likely born in the early 1900s. So they're talking about the youth of 1970 are the most informed of any generation in history. Maybe you could say that again today, 2024. But they are the victims of a technological revolution that has swept all of us along as if in a flood. And with this knowledge and affluence have come new problems, and I submit to you, these problems are as serious as any in the history of mankind. This is a little bit nuts that he's talking about the technological revolution in 1970. What they had calculators that you could put in your pocket. I would love to. This guy's probably deceased at this point, right? But it would be interesting to see what they think about this now, because if anything, this thing's just got gas thrown on the fire a little bit. Drug usage among young life is growing at an astounding rate. Shout out. And you know that it is not relegated to the college student, but filtering into the ranks of our high schools, junior highs. Crime and violence have grown at a rate. All right, turns into a Fox News diatribe. That's fine. Population increases. Triggered. I'm already triggered. What are you guys talking about? Population increases in some section of the globe at a fantastic rate. So some sections of the globe, is that a dog whistle? Every advance in technology and food production in these lands is immediately gobbled up by thousands of new poverty-stricken, disease-ridden infants. They will never know life of hope. The life of them will be of a bare substance, degradation, and hopelessness. Man, I don't want to read between the lines on that. It sounds like this is actually darker than okay. The work of the Shriners for caring tens of thousands of crippled children. Isn't that a problematic phrase now? Suffer me, little children that come unto me. All right, now they're getting creepy. We can pinpoint the fact that 75% of crimes are being committed by those under 21, hardened criminals or released on bond. So yeah, this is just back in my day and youth of today and yada yada. You can find old Greek and Egyptian, and like old cuneiform tablets that are basically saying this exact same thing. So I don't know, the grain of salt, I think, for a little bit of this. So what's the problem, man? I don't really, let's see, with the teachings of masonry, blah blah blah. So I guess it's really just the nation's going to hell in 1970. So can Freemasonry be saved? I mean, spoiler alert, maybe not, because the rates for membership in Freemasonry in general, I think, have been in free fall for some time now, and it's not getting bigger and more powerful, at least not publicly. And for whatever you want to trust me on it, I don't see lines around the block to get into lodge. Lodges aren't putting gold foil on the ceilings. If anything, they're renting their spaces out more and more for book fairs and weddings and what have you. Let's keep it going. This one is already falling apart, so I won't feel too bad that, yeah, the cover just comes right off. Cool. I guess these are different in each one. Let's see what this one says. For a simple credo that will work like magic as mankind moves towards the new day, let us return to the intuitive Masonic admonition that is more ancient than any practice, reason, or logic. Let brotherly love prevail. Shout out Philadelphia. Message 1776. Are they talking about the Bavarian Illuminati? I guess we'll see. Page 6. We'll look at that. True significance of the 20th of September. I am also interested in that one. Hiram versus Sleeping Beauty. I'm also okay. This one's money, man. Do we want planned mediocrity or programmed excellence? Changing philosophies affecting youth. Is freedom too cheap? This one sounds all fire. Benjamin Franklin, philosopher and Mason. All right, we're gonna cruise through this one just a little bit because this actually sounds pretty interesting. No pictures, unfortunately. But let's see. Do we comprehend its significance? Maybe. Not enough pictures to comprehend. Oh, we got bullet points though. Everyone likes bullet points. So we're talking about Benjamin Franklin, I guess, with his famous kite. Franklin experimented with the identity of lightning and electricity. Yeah. All right, you gotta get through the early stuff to get to the World War II and the World War III plans. All right, the true significance of the 20th September. I'm already at a loss. I'm not really sure. Oh, it's yeah, I've got no idea. Let's see. For many years now, the national feast of the 20th September in Italy has celebrated the Bersaglieri breaking through Porta Pia. The real significance of the event is the end of a temporal rule by a religious hierarchy. Come on, man. Tell me about World War III. Tell me about where Moloch and Baal come into this. Hiram versus Sleeping Beauty. So, for anyone not in the know, they're talking about Hiram Abiff, I believe, who's not necessarily the exact same Hiram Abiff in the Bible, although maybe it also is, and that's just I don't know. It gets confusing. Most brothers in Masonry realize that there is a symbolism that contains a series of moral truths, but a sprinkling of members have been especially intrigued by its teachings, discovered an attribute, sleeping therein. Haha, nice little pun there. Eventually, they have found the symbolism and rites of Masonry, when traced to finality, offer an explanation of the nethermost spiritual laws of the universe. Usually, this final lesson has been sufficiently electrifying and impressive, result in temporary mental shock. I'll emphasize those words, but I won't say more. And it should be recalled that within the ceremony of each of the first 3 degrees of Masonry, there's always a portion repeated that has always been called the shock of enlightenment. Once these mental astonishment have been logically organized, an entire new world of enlightenment reveals itself to the initiate while offering generous proofs at each disclosure. Masons may be assured without hesitation that there was some mystical method by which all members could be subjected tomorrow to the true shock of enlightenment. The forces generated thereby would immediately scour the ethics of the planet to a brilliant hue. Such a remark may seem overstated at first. Let's get to the Sleeping Beauty already, guys. We're talking about morals and dogma right off the bat. In Morals and Dogma, Pike provides adequate evidence of how ancient men had an affinity for expressing their natural wisdom in monuments that have a direct reference to the movements of the sun. Prominently focalized in all sun symbolism were 2 pillars representing the sun's farthest delineation into the northern light of summer and the southern darkness of winter. Adequate comprehension of what these 2 pillars, I assume that we're talking Yakin and Boaz, illustrate the philosophy is the fundamental key of blasting open an understanding of the spiritual laws of the universe. Talking about duality a little bit, checkerboard floors. King Solomon's Temple is remembered in Masonry not only because it's biblical, but because it's one of the best illustrations of the sun symbolism in history, and therefore explains the spiritual laws fully. Where's this? Oh, here we go. Consider the name Snow White. How the name itself illustrates untainted purity. Yeah, okay, the white lambskin apron. How the story says she was the finest in the land. Consider how the wicked witch realized she could not establish and ensure her position on earth so long as she could be compared to the beauty of Snow White. So she first conspired to cut the heart out of Snow White, but our heroine miraculously escaped the butchery to find abode with the 7 dwarves, who represent the 7 arts, the sciences, or the 7 levels of human understanding. Shout out. I mean, we cover this in Occult Disney. If you go to occultdisney.com or just search for Occult Disney podcast, the episode on Snow White, we go real deep into this. And that not only do the seven doors represent the seven liberal arts, but they might also represent the seven classical planets. They represent earth elementals, and that these earth elementals are going down into the darkness where humans can't see, and they're bringing back gems. But they can't appreciate the gems because they don't have light. So Snow White represents that light and that consciousness, and her light makes the gems sparkle, and then they can appreciate it. So they get into this agreement where she provides them knowledge and just identity of the spirit, and they give her gems of the earth. It gets deep. We're not going to get too much into it. Go check out that episode of Occult Disney. Think now why the dwarves would enshrine Snow White for years in a glass casket, a situation which she would be lost to most of humanity, but where a few could make a special effort to still view her beauty. They're talking about Hiram Abiff here, where Hiram Abiff is lost and the key to masonry is lost. And how eventually, when all expectation seems lost forever, a quirk of fate jolted Snow White back to life, and she was married to Prince Charming amidst the great rejoicing of people. Therefore, she becomes queen, yada yada. And they talk about Sleeping Beauty, basically the same thing. She was named Aurora, meaning dawn, synonymous for enlightenment. So again, even Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, they both represent this spark of human consciousness that all of the dark forces are always trying to take over. And it's also, if you notice in these Disney stories and all these old like fairy tales, the people protagonists, they can converse with nature, and that's also this sign of how nature is in this contract almost with humanity, where we share our light and we share our consciousness, and then it bounties with us. It's almost like an even trade. This is based on the stories within here, though. This is not a science lesson. Again, with Pike, consider the effort that Pike willingly made through his work in Morals and Dogma, that big thick one we were just looking at. So it's easy to understand why this wisdom is not as universally recognized as the prophecies indicate it eventually will be. So he's literally saying that Morals and Dogma is prophetic, and it's just not getting the respect it deserves. And I don't think I would take that exact same approach here. I'd say that people don't understand it, and then it's got a lot of good information in it. But I don't know if I would call it prophecy. Then again, I'm not a 33rd degree. Was that guy 33 or 32? It shouldn't matter, right? Shouldn't. Oh, he's a 33. Damn it. See? And another, so two different, that's 66 degrees. I don't know if I can compete with 60, so I have to take their word for it. Changing philosophies. I wonder if this is going to be another old man shakes fist at clouds. It's often said that America is great because Uncle Sam stands tall. This image or impression of Uncle Sam standing tall, ba ba ba. I want to know how the old people are complaining about the young people. There's another group, a minority of young Americans who have not fared so well in society because of the economic situation surrounding their birth, early childhood, lack of educational opportunities, uncontrolled parental influences, other factors. While they're actually acknowledging a lower class in America, it only took until about the 1970s. Oh, okay. They're going to complain about hippies. Let's see. Found that 80% of crimes are committed by repeaters. I wonder if this is the same guy that wrote the last one. I'm not even going to check. Let's see. Perhaps the philosophy that is most affecting youth today is the hippie philosophy. This is actually kind of rich to read an old Freemason in the 70s rant about hippies. Because hippies at this point are boomers, right? So to the guy writing this, he's complaining about hippies, but where he's talking about are what we know are as boomers and Karens. The typical hippie, aka boomer, is a young man whose attire is dirty, whose feet are dirty. He wears sandals without socks, torn and dirty dungarees without a belt, and a sweatshirt that has never been washed but worn continuously for months. This sounds almost incredibly specific and personal, like he's talking about someone he knows. He has an unshaven face and long beaded or braided hair. I mean, has this guy not seen a picture of Albert Pike? Okay. Recently, I met just such an individual on the campus of one of our colleges. When asked why he's dressed in such a manner, I can just imagine this Freemason guy. Like, why are you dressed like such a slob? He says it fits my personality and it allows me to develop my personality. When I asked him if his soul and his thoughts were as vile and unclean as his body, his remark embodies in essence the hippie philosophy. I owe no allegiance to God for my being. I am not indebted to my parents for my existence. I am not responsible to America from whence comes my livelihood. I owe no respect to the government or to the armed forces for its protection. Now, I'm almost positive that even though this is in quotes, this doesn't sound like a hippie talking. This sounds like a boomer or oh no, this is an old fogey, right? The best generation ever, translating what a hippie said. I doubt the hippie said, "I'm not responsible to America from whence comes my livelihood." That sounds a little too fancy. These are statements that indicate the thinking of such an individual. How grossly wrong can one become? We've been taught by the Bible that man's body belongs to God. Our body is his temple, and we are therefore obliged to keep our bodies clean, healthful, and strong. So I didn't see this guy offering a shower or food. Okay. But this freedom does not allow the individual to become a slave to the use of marijuana, heroin, and other opiums, nor does it give him the right and freedom to ignore that responsibility. Okay, so we're just ranting about hippies for an entire section here. And it's called Philosophies Affecting Our Youth. But really, it's just some guy got angry because his son wouldn't shave and was smoking the ganj. Is freedom too cheap? I'm just going to assume that's another continue on rant from an old dude talking about young dudes. The current interests one, I guess those are all like sort of inside baseball. I mean, if anyone really cares, I'll go into detail, but I don't really care about 1970s internal politics of the Scottish Rite, at least not at this exact moment. Ben Franklin, philosopher and Mason. Here's one thing about Masons is they love to claim anyone that'll give them credit. So hell yeah, they'll claim Ben Franklin. They'll claim anyone. So whenever it comes out that like, oh, such and such is a secret Mason, or if there's just the concept that someone might be a Mason, but they're not telling anyone. I mean, usually Masons claim that because it's free advertisement. I mean, hell, they I guess they stopped claiming Kramer after he told some really bad jokes. But yeah, they don't shy away from claiming anyone. And if they're embarrassed about you, they'll maybe just revoke your membership. I don't know. I don't know if they can afford that actually at this point. Volunteers in the Scottish Rite vineyards contribute to our two most valued commodities. Yeah. All right. What do we got in this one? Lives of great men, timelessness of truth, white gloves for the lady. I guess we'll see what they have to talk about ladies. 19. The importance of a correct viewpoint. That sounds very objective. 29. Washington and the present American. I bet you that's another rant on the youth of today. There we go. The Great Seal of the United States. We're 1,000,000% looking at that one on 51. Let's do 19 and then 51. White gloves for the lady. At one time, the ritual of English, French, and German Masonic lodges provided for the presentation of a white lambskin apron and 2 pairs of white gloves for each candidate, 1 pair for him, and 1 pair to be presented to the woman he most esteemed. This custom is still followed in some Scotch lodges, but has not been followed in the United States. Those absolute heathens. That is, it has not been used until recently. It was revived experimentally in 2 lodges, Texas and Oklahoma. This is kind of boring. Okay, you gave white gloves to your girlfriend, your wife. The symbolism of the white apron and the white gloves is the same: innocence, purity, and clean hands. Okay, fine. Give him the white gloves. I don't really see how that matters too much. I do care about the Great Seal of the United States, which was on. Oh, look. This is kind of interesting. Is this of current interest? The internal politics, is it always on page 33? Hold on, we're taking a break to look, because if it is, that's interesting. It is those slimy little look, page 33. Okay, okay. Nope, it's on 37 on this one. Oh, they could have had something really cool going there. All right. Is it a coincidence the last 3 all had the internal Scottish Rite on page 33? But the fact that they didn't do it on every single one, I don't know. So the Great Seal. Familiarity has a blinding effect sometimes, and if we see something often enough, we don't see it at all. That's a sick. I'm gonna have to read that more dramatically just so I can do like a TikTok clip of this. Familiarity has a blinding effect sometimes, and if we see something often enough, we don't see it at all. We overlook it, take it for granted. For instance, when was the last time that you looked at the symbols on a $1 bill? I swear I had a dollar somewhere, but it's buried under books. Farewell dollar. It's here somewhere, but I was gonna pull it up. Let's just see. On the back of the dollar bill, you'll notice 2 symbolic circles. One circle has an eagle, and the other has an uncompleted pyramid. That's a very important aspect too. That the uncompleted pyramid that's missing the capstone. It's got the Eye of Providence. Anyways, these 2 circles constitute the front and back of the Great Seal of the United States. Yeah, so imagine it's like a coin. Oh, here I found it. So here we go. So if you imagine, here's the left side of the seal, there's the right side of the seal. It's really just kind of a coin. Like if you were to fold this over and cut that out, this is the actual full seal front and back. Okay. Um, so the unfinished pyramid is the unfamiliar back of the Great Seal, often referred to as the Lesser Seal. We're talking about this one. This is the Lesser Seal. These 2 symbols and the numerical symbol of 13, which is an integral part of both the eagle and the pyramid, are very meaningful and beautiful. This number 13 has played an important part in our great history. There were, of course, the original 13 states and the signatures representing the 13 original states affixed to that document, the Declaration of Independence. There's also 13 stripes on the American flag, 13 stars on the Bennington flag, the circle of 13 stars on the Betsy Ross flag, 13 letters on the motto of the rattlesnake flag, "Don't tread on me." That's the Gadsden flag. Shout out, "Don't tread on me." Later on, there were the 13 stars on the Confederate flag. If you look closely at the front side of the Great Seal, the side with the eagle, you notice there's 13 stars surrounded by clouds and the crest above the head of the eagle. We'll zoom in here. They're talking about these stars up here. There's 13 stars in there. This is called the glory or constellation. On the breast of the eagle, there are 13 stripes on the shield. So here's the stripes. There's 13 of those. There's 13 arrows in the eagle's left claw right here. Another note, the fact that the eagle's looking away from the claws is supposed to imply peace. That's why he's looking towards the olive branch there. There's 13 leaves in the olive branch. And finally, there are 13 letters in the Latin motto inscribed in the banner held in the eagle's beak. I can't get close enough there, but E pluribus anum, out of one, many, or one out of many. The eagle itself represents the United States. The wings of the eagle are not like the straight out and expanded wings of heraldry, but rather displayed upward as a rising eagle with a slightly upturned head. And if you're big into Manly Palmer Hall and any of the other esoteric research, whenever you see this rising eagle, probably a phoenix. It actually represents like rising out of the ashes of something, especially the way that it's postured here. So yeah, upturned head, and then it says born on the breast without any means of support, denoting that the United States ought to rely on its own virtue to be self-supporting. Vertical bars and stripes, 6 red, 7 white, represent the several states joined together into one solid group. So they're breaking down the rest of these. The olive branch and the arrows denote power of peace and war, exclusively vested in Congress. Here we go. Now let's talk about the pyramid. More 13s all over the place. And again, this isn't a conspiracy theory book, right? This is the 1971 February edition of New Age magazine, the official organ of the Supreme Council, 33rd degree. So this is not a conspiracy theory. This is not some woo-woo New Age book, arguably. It's not some random Reddit thread. They're actually talking about the pyramid with 13 steps, 13 layers of stone. The pyramid is left unfinished, right? That's why it just ends right here at the top. And then you've got this Eye of Providence above it. The pyramid is left unfinished because there's always work to be done in a free world. In the zenith of the pyramid, using the all-seeing eye of deity in a triangle surrounded by glory, which stands for the fact that America stands under the all-seeing eye of divine protection. Annuit coeptis means he has prospered our undertaking. There's 13 letters in that motto. The date carved on the side of the pyramid in Roman numerals is 1776. Novus Ordo Seclorum, meaning the new order of the age, signifies the beginning of the new American order. Another interpretation of the Great Seal is as below. Among those who helped design the Great Seal of the United States, the following were Masons: Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, William Churchill Houston, and William Barton. Whether they drew heavily upon Freemasonry in this work, it's impossible to assert, but when an informed Mason examines the Great Seal, here's what he sees. On the obverse is the eagle whose dexter wing has 32 feathers, the number of ordinary degrees of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. The sinister wing has 33 feathers. Man, that sounds like a little inside nod. So the sinister wing has 33. I mean, everyone always tells me that once you get to 33, then you'll know that it's all just been about the devil. So maybe that's why they put it on the sinister wing. Why does the sinister wing have 33 feathers? The 33rd degree of the right conferred to outstanding Masonic service. Like I was saying, it's almost like an honorary thing. The tail feathers number 9, the number of degrees in the chapter council and commandery of the York Rite Freemasonry. Scottish Rite Freemasonry had its origin in France. York Rite is sometimes called the American Rite. The eagle thus clothed represents the union of French and American Masons. That's actually pretty. I don't think I've ever heard that breakdown before. That's fascinating to me. That you've got 32 feathers on one wing and 33 on the other wing, and that represents the solidarity between York Rite Masonry and Scottish Rite Masonry. That's kind of blew my mind a little bit. I know I'm not like screaming it, but this is really making my the hairs stand up a little bit. The total number of feathers in the two wings is 65. By gematria, the value of the Hebrew phrase Yam Yauchad, together in unity. This phrase appears in Psalm 133 as below. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. And it's used in the ritual of the first degree of Freemasonry. The glory above the eagle's head, again, that's this little chunk of stars, also known as the constellation, divided into 24 equal parts, reminds the observer of the Mason's gauge, which is also divided into 24 equal parts, emblematic to the service obliged to perform. Can't say more about that. They'll kill me. Let's see what else we're going. This is crazy. The arrangement of the stars in the constellation to form overlapping equilateral triangles and the Star of David calls to the Mason's mind King David's dream of building a temple to his God, the companions who rebuilt the desecrated temple, and finding the word that was lost. Again, this is an interesting one where they were saying the lost word of Masonry was almost like Sleeping Beauty getting locked into that glass case. The gold, silver, and azure colors represent sun, moon, and worshipful master. The first that rules the day, the second the night, and the third the lodge. Interesting. Shout out to 47th problem of Euclid. They're talking about all the triangles involved. This is a really interesting one, to be honest. That little breakdown of the Great Seal. I know I've read it before in a few places, but to read it directly out of a Scottish Rite official organ, as they call it, the official organ of the Supreme Council, it hits a little different to actually see them claiming it for themselves. Or I guess we claiming it for ourselves. Tips to the freshmen. Where are you, America? 33 again of current interest. I wonder why that other one was on page 37. Was the guy that knew about the internal code just out that day? Americanism in our schools. I'm interested to see what they have to say about that. I haven't looked at these book reviews yet. Maybe we'll look at the book review. So we'll do Americanism in schools and book review. All right, here we go. Let's see. Americanism in our schools. Yeah, shout out to all the drama in the comments. Go ahead. I want to see, what do you think the worst thing that I've ever done in lodge is? How many? Yeah, go ahead and just list it out in the comments. I'll highlight the best, whoever gets the closest. I was a poor youngster and my parents worked hard to put me through school. Oh boy, I can already tell where this one's headed. This is, oh man, this is going to be a rant about the youth of today all over again. One day I was in the 9th grade, blah, blah, blah. God, I don't care what happened to this guy in high school, to be honest. Let's just assume that he complains about the youth today and be on with it. I am interested in the book reviews, which was what, page 56? Here's the average age of a youngster in Freemasonry. And I'm not entirely kidding. Oh man, it's definitely not going to be a big book review because it's like 1 page long. It's literally this 1 page. Frederick the Great. They read that one book. Okay, cool. All right, those were all of the New Age magazine. Let's here, we'll do this one first, and then I'm gonna do the Time Life magazine, because the Time Life magazine is gonna be pretty cool, I think. The Freemasons Punch Bowl. Selection of ceramics, earthenware, and glassware. So every year the Scottish Rite sends its highest ranking Illuminati members these free little like end table books, I guess. But they're interesting because it just shows like cool stuff that you would only see if you went to their museum in person. And sometimes they don't even have all this stuff out for display. So here we've got a drink, nice little crystal glass, Masonic flask, 1822. That's kind of cool. And it's got like a little checkerboard floor that's built into it. Put a little bit of lean in there, little promethazine, you know. This is here's the party. Festive ceremony. Catechisms of French Masons. Are they allowed to show that? I wonder if someone died over that. Here we have the 2 pillars, although this is a great example in my mind that these pillars might also just be mushrooms. If you're familiar with any of my other videos, the only real big woo-woo thing that I've got going for me is that I think that everything was a mushroom. I think Jesus was a mushroom, Santa was a mushroom. Everyone has always meant the Eucharist is a mushroom. Everything's a mushroom. And you can't tell me right now that these aren't little mushrooms that are popping out of the ground. So I don't even want to hear it. Cool little, like, what is this, like a rice bowl? Chopsticks? And a Freemasonic symbol with a little beehive, right? Buzz, buzz. Got a pitcher. I mean, it's just a bunch of random earthenware type stuff. You guys see any of this at a garage sale, now you know to scoop it up. I kind of want myself a little flask. These flasks are kind of cool. What does it say about it? Masonic side of such flasks usually includes 2 pillars joined with an arch and keystone, the sun and moon above either side, checkered pavement, working tools, square and compass, rayed triangle with the letter G, and the other side depicts the American eagle with a starburst and oval. Oh, we got a secret handshake going on here. That's interesting. I don't think I've ever seen an official Masonic thing include like a handshake drawn onto it. I thought that was only for people that are looking to take the easy way out. This is kind of interesting. What is this? Commemorates the founding of the Supreme Council, Spain, July 4th, 1811. And you got the Byzantine eagles there, right? The double-headed eagle, which just that might be also on the Great Seal, right? The 32 and 33. It's a little bit less obvious. 1906. Wow, what is this? A purple goblet? A tig or pass cup? A tig? I guess a tig. A 3-handled cup which is more easily passed between persons. The attractive cup, done in a royal purple and gold, accenting on the handles and rim, commemorates the 50th anniversary of the Gabal Council, number 3, Royal and Select Masters, Trenton, New Jersey. Okay. And it's purple because of the Phoenicians here, right? It says Gabal was a maritime town of Phoenician near Tyre, called Byblos by the Greeks. They were called Giblums. They assisted King Solomon in the construction of his temple. Interesting. That would be kind of cool to sip lean out of this thing. I'm not gonna lie. And it's got the 3 handles, so it's like made for passing around the room. I mean, that doesn't sound like they were just putting water in that. I wonder what the hell they were putting in that thing. So that was interesting. All right. Here's I guess one of the main presentations. I just want to get to it because I haven't really looked at it in too much detail yet. Oh, gotta clear some room because this thing is massive. So I didn't go out and buy this or anything. This was handed down to me. I think my grandpa had it. He wasn't a Mason. He just had a subscription to Life magazine and gave it to my parents, and my parents gave it to me. So now I've got it, and I might be the only person that's ever actually owned this particular one in my hands, that actually cared about the contents of the book outside of just, oh, pictures. So let's see. The U.S. Masons, a pictorial essay in color. What it's like to be tall. Oh no, that has nothing to do with Masons. That must be a separate byline. That's interesting. So here you go. State Masonic Grand Masters. These are all the Grand Masters of different states. There's way more than this, by the way. So let's see. I'm just gonna jump right to that section. I mean, the magazine itself is kind of cool in its own right. It's just got so many like vintage ads. Okay, here we go. The busy brotherly world of Freemasonry. And then I'm going to try and be careful with this thing because it is super old. So this says, I'll just read it. Dedication to Solomon's Temple reenacted by the Brooklyn Royal Archmasons, Orient Chapter 138. This ritual, never before photographed, is just part of a ceremony awarding the most excellent master degree to the prospective Royal Archmasons. High Priest of Jews, this guy, kneels before cherubim decorated Ark of the Covenant. That's in the foreground here. This is the Ark of the Covenant. That's like looking over all these guys. So they're basically all they're all venerating the Ark of the Covenant in this shot here. King Solomon stands before the Bible in the background, surrounded by princes, workmen, and court attendants. So that's this dude back here. This is supposed to be King Solomon. So this is never before photographed. And this is really fancy. I mean, a lot of different Scottish Rite lodges, they put on these different sort of like rituals. This is an incredibly elaborate version of one of those. And then this one I've seen online before, and I've never seen it in person, full color, even more than full color. I don't know if I can show it off as easily, but see these little like symbols of the degrees? Like this is actually like a silver or like a metallic print. If I move it around, you can kind of see it shining a little bit. Yeah, there you go. It comes out a lot better in person, but see how it's you can almost see like the spot foil that was printed on top of these, and every one of these different symbols, and anyone that's holding something metallic, it kind of shines. So it's really cool to see it. But this breaks down all the degrees or all the public degrees. I gotta say that of Freemasonry. So let's start at the very bottom. Start at the bottom. Now we're here. Here is an entered apprentice. This is a guy that is just starting to join Freemasonry. So you can see he's got 1 foot on the dirt, the gross, imperfect dirt, but he's got 1 foot on this perfect ashlar rock as he's making a step towards it. We've got this guy here, which I assume is a fellow craft. I don't. Oh, here we go. Cool. Entered apprentice is the first degree, so that's the first step. Fellow craft is the second degree, so here's the second step. And then when you finally get to Master Mason, that's why this one has this symbol. That's like the first checkpoint you get to. Now you're a third degree Master Mason, and from here you can decide where you want to go. You can hang out here on the third degree and just that's why all these dudes are just chilling, right? All these guys that are chilling, they don't have to go anywhere else. Like they've made it to the top. So if that's all they wanted to do, then they're good to go. But if you want to earn all your extra Cub Scout badges, then you can see this guy over here. I zoom in a little bit. He's taken a step. He's taken a step up to the fourth degree, and this is the Scottish Rite. And so he's going to become a secret master. And then if he keeps walking down this path, he becomes a perfect master, intimate secretary, provost and judge, intendant of the building, master elect of 9, elect of 15, the sublime master elected, the grand master architect, the master of the 9th arc, the grand elect mason. We're not even halfway there. Knight of the Easter sword, prince of Jerusalem, knight of the east and west, knight of the Rose Croix, grand pontiff, master ad vitam, patriarch Noachite, prince of Libanus, chief of the tabernacle. We're still not there. Prince of the tabernacle, knight of the brazen serpent, prince of Mary, commander of the temple, knight of the sun, knight of St. Andrew, grand elect knight, grand inspector inquisitor, and then here's where Paranoid American's at. The sublime prince of the royal secret. That's me. I'm a sublime prince of the royal freaking secret. Come at me. And then they've got the dude at the very top, the 33rd degree sovereign grand inspector general. And he gets to wear the fancy purple, just like in Phoenician times. You only get to wear it if you're super special. And then this was the Scottish Rite version. And I already realized, yeah, they're going up, right? This doesn't look lateral, although it probably would have been messy to have them all lateral. But sure, yeah, you can imagine that these are higher degrees. That doesn't necessarily work that way. But here's the left side. But then remember that great seal? Here's the right side. Their steps are a lot bigger. But they all go to the same place. So if you were to join, you became a Master Mason, but you decide to go on this side of the path. This is the York Rite. So the York Rite, you go Mark Master, Past Master, Most Excellent Master, Royal Archmason, Order of the Red Cross, Order of the Knights of Malta, and then finally Order of Knights Templar. And then likewise, these are all supposed to be somewhat lateral. So these are all different degrees, and each one of these steps represents its own degree, like a completely different ritual, a different set of information that you may have to memorize. So this is a lot of work to make it through all these steps is not a fast process. And then here in the very center of this big printout, if you've got these different factions within Freemasons. So you've got the tall cedars of Lebanon. There's their symbol. It's got 3 little cedar trees. You've got Order of the Eastern Star with the little pentagram, right? And you've got the lady. She probably makes some bomb ass snacks. You've got the Grotto, right? You've got this little green man looking dude, and he's got a fez. You've got Job's Daughters, another female organization. You've got the Rainbow Girls, another female Masonic organization. Order of Des Moines. This is basically for like Freemasonry for kids. This is what Walt Disney was in when he was growing up. He was in Order of Des Moines, and not just any order. I think he was in the specific lodge where the Order of Des Moines was founded. So he was pretty hardcore into it. And then I can't like the camera doesn't even go far enough to show this entire thing. It is so massive. But yeah, we've got the Masonic Bible over here with the square and compass. We also have the all-seeing eye with the G. This one's cool, man. I mean, this so many times online, but it's cool to have like the original source for it. So what did you pass up? You passed this this magazine up at a yard sale. I looked it up. I think they're going for like $50 on eBay. So I mean, it's not like you're gonna retire after it, but it's also, I mean, we're gonna see every single picture in the whole article. So outside of actually reading the whole article here on stream, you're getting a pretty good glimpse of what was in it. But if you see one at a yard sale and they're not selling it for $50, they're selling it for a couple bucks. I mean, freaking buy it and flip it. You'd be crazy not to. Look at this dude here. This guy is living his best life. There's no other way to put it. He's sitting in the golden chair. He's got the purple outfit on. This is the most eminent Grand Master of the Grand Encampment of Knights Templar, Major General Walter A. de la Mater, the head of the 3 highest orders of York Reich and has no jurisdiction over other orders. He's also a 33rd degree Mason. So yeah, just I don't know how to clearly convey this, but basically once you've made it to this 3rd step, once you're a Master Mason on this 3rd step, you can do anything you want. You can go up the left path and join the Scottish Rite. You can go up the right path. You can go up both paths. You can even do them both at the same exact time. Although, in a practical sense, not a lot of people have the time or the mental capacity to handle going through both of these at the same time. Because again, it's not like you just show up like like AA, and after you show up for so long, they give you like a chip. There's a lot to it in order to go from one step to the next step. So to do both of those at the same time, it's possible, but it's very unlikely. But most of the time, people, if they're really deep in the masonry, they can get every damn degree that's offered out there. And then they've got all sorts of extra degrees where like you go to a specific lodge in a specific town and they're the only ones that confer a very specific degree. So it truly does turn into one of those sort of like Cub Scout badge collecting dynamics. Like you can, there's probably a chance that you're not going to collect every single Cub Scout badge ever made. Like there just wouldn't be time for it. I don't know. Maybe someone out there has done it before. Here's the trappings of office. It's an interesting way to phrase it. And then look at how deep this this Egyptian symbolism is in here. This is the Egyptian Hall of the city's Masonic Temple. And this one is the Pennsylvania Grand Lodge. So inside the state of Pennsylvania and their Grand Lodge is this like entirely gold coated room, it looks like, filled with ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, and a bunch of white dudes wearing fancy hats. Here is one of those aforementioned white dudes in the fancy hats. This is the Sovereign Grand Commander. That's what the little hat shows up here. It's really hard to see in this one, even in the print in front of me. It's hard to see, but that's essentially the cross of Lorraine that's on his hat there. That's what's on the 33rd degree hats. And this dude's got more gold than a rapper. Look at this dude is like flexing hard, bro. This guy's ready to go out clubbing. I just hope he runs with a thick crew. I'm sure he does. Here's this guy standing between the two big mushrooms. You can't convince me otherwise. Here's a slightly better version of that cross of Lorraine. Arguably, I'm sure someone could debate that it's not, although I could probably find a New Age article, not ones that I have, but I could probably find a New Age magazine somewhere where they admit it's the cross of Lorraine. I don't have it on me, but I don't feel like that's a controversial statement to make. Okay, here's this is interesting. This is Job's daughters installing a new officer of Bethel number 3 in St. Paul, Minnesota. The honored Queen Sally Hodgins in the foreground. So there's Sally. Shout out Sally. Leads the group in hymn. Junior and senior princesses Barbara Brumer and Judy Johnson, left and right in capes. So these two people kneel with the other officers. Ex-officers stand behind them. And you got all the dudes in the background. And this chick's babysitting. So the men can attend the female groups, but the females cannot attend the male groups. Sorry, that's how it works. Unless you go to England. In America, I think it's the only or one of the few countries left where women are still not allowed to be like fully fledged Masons. And the UK, I believe they've done away with that. Here's another little pageant here. I'm assuming this is Desmoulins. Oh yeah, it says right here. It says Order Desmoulins holds a flower talk ceremony in Granite City. So this is the flower talk ceremony. I assume these are all flowers. I don't know. I was never in Desmoulins. I didn't even know Desmoulins existed when I was a kid. And my parents didn't know it existed. There would have been no access to Desmoulins. And I don't think I would have been interested. I think I rather would have played Sega Genesis. In fact, I don't go to Lodge very often now, and it's because I would rather just play maybe not Sega Genesis, but almost anything else. This is another really elaborate one. So this is Daughters of the Nile, Omaha, Nebraska Civic Auditorium, saluting their Supreme Queen, Ruth Deaton. 5 marching patrols in the foreground. Egyptian costumes put arms up to keep formation. So look at it. Crazy. Pageantry for all occasions. Here's one. It's a little bit less fancy. It looks like it's in a high school gymnasium. Like you can see the basketball floor there. And this one is Rainbow Girls in Pasco, Washington. Yeah, in a high school gym. Yeah, I mean, lodges can be anywhere. Some of the original lodges was just meet me at the bar after they close. And that was lodge. They don't necessarily have to be these big brick and mortars. This is a little bit wild. I honestly have no idea at all about this tall cedar group. See if I can get rid of some of that reflection. It says, happy tall cedar wearing a huge feather decoration on his back plucks his bass fiddle at a parade drill in Trenton, New Jersey Shrine Auditorium. A member of the Tall Cedars of Lebanon plays in the Camden Forest No. 5 string band. Hamilton, who's an electrician and a 32nd degree Mason and a Shriner. The Tall Cedars of Lebanon, organized primarily to have fun, draw its name from the trees used in building King Solomon's temple. I've never actually heard of this particular the Cedars of Lebanon. I've always heard the Shriners as being like the fun Masons or the jesters. All right, here we go. We're venturing into black and white territory, so I wonder if the article is drawing to a close here. The dramatic rituals for 2 degrees. Let's see how much they wanted to give the normie audience out here. The staging of the most important ritual for a Mason is shown at the right. The procedure. Oh wow, they're showing part of it. Uh, let's see. Uh, the procedure becomes a third degree or master mason. To many masons, the most coveted honor is bestowed through the secret ritual reenacted below. Initiation into the 33rd degree of the Scottish Rite. So here's an actual image from part of the 33rd degree initiation ritual. And I assume that he's giving him a ring. Yeah, put a ring on that. So it says the third degree ritual is inspired by the biblical story of Hiram Abiff. Hiram Abiff, the greatest mason of his time, was sent by his king, Hiram of Tyre, to help Solomon build his temple. According to Masonic legend, when the temple was finished, Hiram Abiff was killed and buried in the temple. In Hiram's story, Masons find morals on justice and fidelity. The 33rd degree ritual is simpler, the degree being conferred with a ring. This year, 174 Masons were given the 33rd degree, each becoming a sovereign grand inspector general in the Scottish Rite. Among them was Ernest Breach, 1955, chairman of Ford's board of directors. After the ritual, Breach, a Mason since 1921, called it the absolute ultimate in honors. So here is, what was his position? Chairman of Ford's board of directors. So not nothing. So here's the board of chairman of the board of directors of Ford being conferred the 33rd degree ritual. And according to this article, the entire ritual just consists of they put a ring on your finger. So I've heard other descriptions. I've heard them from non-Masons that include, I don't know, babies and small animals and mallets and all kinds of weird things. According to this Life article, you show up, they put a ring on your finger, and then it's over with. So I wonder if the truth is somewhere between those two. I wonder if it's the former, it's the latter. Marching to church, Lexington Masons with aprons leave lodge and go to church. Be a wild scene, just like a bunch of Masons walking around downtown going to church. And then here we've got probably Eastern Star. Yep, Eastern Star. Members salute. Let me show it here. Members salute in the lodge room as Dolores Way takes the flag to the stand. So here's the inside of an actual Eastern Star meeting. And they're talking about Blue Lodge Masonry's core. The Blue Lodge is essentially those first 3 degrees. I've also heard York Rite described as Blue Lodge and Scottish Rite described as Red Lodge. And that was it for this particular. Oh wait, no, it's still going. What does this say? Great Kidnapping Furor took place in 1826 over the disappearance of William Morgan, a renegade Mason who was supposedly abducted and killed by Masons. Harper's drawing shows Masons forcing Morgan into a coach. So here's the story of William Morgan. That's apparently this dude right here. This is worth its own really deep dive. But William Morgan was someone that was apparently got into Masonry and then divulged the secrets. He told everyone about the handshakes and the secret passwords and everything. And the story was that they kidnap him and they unalive the poor dude. Now, this story goes way deeper. So on one hand, I've heard claims that William Morgan was never a real person, that he was just like this amalgamation of different people and also a symbol for Masons to say, oh, look, like the different oaths that you make were real. And these things really do happen if you divulge the secrets. Then there's also people that consider that he was a real person. I think I do believe that William Morgan was a real person. And even wilder than this is that the widow of William Morgan here, the widow of this guy that is the most famous person to divulge the secrets of Freemasonry, his widow goes on to marry or at least become incredibly close with Joseph Smith of the Mormon religion. And if you know anything about the Mormon religion, the crossover there between exposing the secrets of Freemasonry, and there's something really interesting between the connections between William Morgan and Joseph Smith through his widow. It's crazy. We've gone into it. We've just dipped our toe into it on a series with myself, Andreas Zertis, and Heidi Love called I think it's called Zertis and Heidi, something like that. But it is beyond fascinating to me. So, and I can tell that this is like really hot topic. Like this is what everyone's going to be talking about in 2024 is the William Morgan affair. More famous worshipful masters: Ben Franklin, George Washington. If you didn't know about them being Freemasons, then you've got a lot more research to do. Anyways, this was a big one. This one is almost as big as the entire mat that I've got here. Yeah, so I guess if you see this at a garage sale, scoop it up if it's less than $50. And I don't know, I would just take pictures of it and then freaking sell it. I'll probably list this one at some point. After I read it enough times and take some high-res pictures, I've got no reason to hold on to this thing. And likewise, maybe with this one I did find, it wasn't at a garage sale, but it was at like an oddities shop, and they were just selling a whole bunch of random just things from all over the place. And what really made me lock eyes with this one in particular, not just that it's from September 1919, which is kind of cool. Damn, I wonder, $2. How much was $2 in 1919? That seems expensive. But which really called out to me on this one is the Eleusinian Mysteries. So the Eleusinian Mysteries and Rites, this is where they did Kaikion. They went underground. They basically put on a big Pink Floyd laser light show, Ancient Greek edition. And I think that this Eleusinian Mysteries might really be one of the cores at the heart of all currently known secret mystery schools. Freemasons, Rosicrucians, Thelema, OTO, like just go down. Scientology, I would list every single one as probably being directly influenced by these Eleusinian mysteries. And here's the opening page for it. Not big on pictures. There's almost no images at all in this one, so I'm not going to sit here and read the whole thing. I might do that on its, maybe I'll just read this particular article on its own video at some point. But this is the reason that I even grabbed this one. Look at this. Persons of both sexes and ages were initiated, and neglect of the ceremony was regarded almost in light of a crime. Socrates was reproached for being almost the only Athenian who had not applied for initiation. Persians were pointedly excluded from the ceremony. Athenians of both sexes were granted the privilege of initiation during childhood on the presentation of their father, but only the first degree of initiation was permitted. So yeah, you had to be a full grown adult to get to the second and third degrees. But this whole concept of going through the third degree, it gets attributed to Masonry now, but in my mind, it's like 100% chance, but there's a very strong chance that the whole third degrees, and it probably didn't even just start with Eleusinian mysteries. This probably goes back to Egypt, Babylon, like as far back as you want to go. Does that mean that they're Satan? I don't know. Maybe. So yeah, this is another, again, there's anything. And I also really was interested in this one for a completely separate and perhaps even boring reason, but a Catholic treatise on Masonry, because due to that other book, which I'll flex this for just a really quick second. Because of this book here, The Mysteries of Freemasonry, Leo Taxel, this causes a huge rift between Catholics and Freemasons. There was already a bit of a rift going on. The Pope came out and they made a declaration that Freemasons Catholic, but the Freemasons allowed Catholics in them. So really, there was a loophole. There was something called the Order of the Pug that was created, and this is another really interesting story. I don't have any printouts for it, but the Order of the Pug was specifically a Freemasonic organization that was made for Catholics, but it was just different enough from Freemasonry that it was a loophole where they could go to the Pope or they could go to the Cardinal, they could go to whoever, they could talk to their God and say, well, I'm not really in the Freemasons. I'm in this thing called the Order of the Pug. So it's different, but it was kind of the same thing. They literally created it just so that they could continue doing Freemasonry without calling it Freemasonry to not offend God. Here's some of the more salacious images in here. So those are what appear to be heads in this dude's hands. And by the way, this entire thing is in Spanish. This was never translated into English. As far as I'm aware, the original is actually in French. I just was able to get my hands on this particular copy. Let's see. Here we've got heads on a pike. Is that where Albert Pike got his name from? Maybe. So, and I'll see if I can find some of like the really, really egregious ones here. Here we've got, is that a mastiff? Maybe, I don't know what the hell kind of dog this is. It's like a lion. We've got this like two-headed bull, right? They're doing some crazy stuff in here. And if you look into Leo Taxel some more too, he was not limited to just this one book. He had all sorts of papers and additional things that he would write that would refer to this book, or the book would like refer to other things, and they were just, according to Leo Taxel himself, they were all complete fabrications. He did it to just be the equivalent of an 1880s internet troll. And it was just to like make the Catholic Church and to make Freemasons look foolish. And people still cite this book, the book that I've got in my hand right now that we're reading. They still cite this as the like the expose of all sorts of Freemasonic secrets, even though the author himself came out and said, haha, it was a joke, gotcha. It still gets cited as like, oh no, but it wasn't. That snake is the one that wins. And there's a few in here of like Baphomet. Here's a guy that's hoodwinked. This is kind of crazy looking. And they've got all these like bellows, I guess. They're blowing them with air. I'm assuming that they're telling them that this is something else. It's like one of those rides where they say that like the bad guys are behind you, or like there's a monster behind you, like a little puff of air blows on you. Here they are reenacting, I guess, some sort of a sacrifice ritual. I've never even heard of this happening in a Masonic lodge, although I wouldn't doubt that that happens. I mean, people do this every day outside of Masonic lodges, so it doesn't seem like it would be that crazy. Here they are worshiping the double-headed eagle with the little all-seeing eye and the pyramid. I don't know. This seems like it's against fire code, whatever building they did this in, unless it's all fake fire. In that case, this is pretty badass laser light show. But yeah, I don't think that you're allowed to do that inside. So we'll get on like a whole extra episode where I just look at every single picture in this whole book, because there's some really crazy ones. Here they are fighting over something, I guess. The new iPhone came out, so they're all trying to figure out who gets the first version of it. This is Mysteries of Freemasons. Let's see what else here. We'll start wrapping up a little bit, but I don't think I'm ever going to get a chance to cover these guys in detail. And oh man, I've got this huge stack of other books too. I do want to show this Clausens on Morals and Dogma. So first of all, let's say that you do the impossible and you find yourself getting a copy of Morals and Dogma for I don't know what reason. It's not hard to find. These aren't really worth anything in particular. You can go on eBay and find a copy for under $50 easy. And the more modern it is, the cheaper it gets. This one is, I want to say 50s. It smells. It smells like mildew. 1947. So Morals and Dogma, man, it would be really hard to give a really good synopsis, but essentially Morals and Dogma is that thing. This is the order that came out of the chaos, right? The order after chaos. So prior to Morals and Dogma being written, arguably, Freemasonry, Scottish Rite in particular, was an absolute mess. Depending on what city or what lodge you went to, they had their own rituals, they had their own degrees in some cases. It was wild. And just because you reached a certain degree in one town, if you transferred to another lodge into another town, they might not sync up exactly. And it was confusing, and it wasn't a great experience for anybody involved. So part of this, I'm oversimplifying a little bit, but part of this was Albert Pike putting together Morals and Dogma. And I'm not going to read through this one. I don't even think that has pictures in it, to be honest. There's like a single drawing of like a square at some point. That's it. But this breaks down every one of those different degrees, 1 through 32. And it explains what all the different symbolism and everything mean in it. The ritual, the fancy little hats that people wear. They talk about why all of those things exist. Although he kind of dances around the specifics, that you would only really understand what he's getting at on some of these things if you've been to a ritual and you've seen it happen in a lodge, or more importantly, if you've got some Mason that you can talk to about it and get some more information, because you're not going to get it all in the book on purpose. But as you can see, this is a very thick book with very small type and almost no pictures whatsoever. Every once in a while, there's like a picture of like a square, but it's not an easy read. Not even a fun read. This is kind of cool. Look at this. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, Semi-Annual General Convocation, 1947. So I didn't even know this was in this book. So there's the 32nd degree emblem. What's in here? Spring reunion. So, and just to be more specific too, usually inside of Scottish Rite, they don't call it a lodge always. Sometimes they'll call it a valley. So that's why you'll see Valley of Atlanta. It's kind of like saying the Scottish Rite Masonic Lodge of Atlanta. Call them valleys. And these spring reunions are literally that. It's like where people get back together. And they'll usually confer a bunch of degrees on people, or they make big important decisions like which MK Ultra program to fund next. And I'm not joking about that. If you want to look at my documentary called, I can't even say the word on, oh yeah, I've got a censored version called Thrill Oxide. If you search for Thrill Oxide on YouTube, you'll find a documentary about the Scottish Rite Freemasons and MK Ultra and something called Thrill Oxide. There's an uncensored version on Rumble, but I won't even say the name of it because we're live right now. And I just got out of timeout. The Hermes Lodge of Perfection. I just wanted to show that. That sounds like a cool name for a lodge. Oh, here's even more on the Hermes Lodge of Perfection. This is just a little handout. This dude went to this reunion, which is like a little convention, and they gave him this. Kind of cool that was in there. So let's say that this doesn't interest you as much, or you're reading this and you're not fully grasping everything. Well, bam, that's where Clausen's commentaries on Morals and Dogma comes into play, and it makes it just a little bit more digestible. There's also a book that I don't think I have on me right now, but it's called Bridge to Light. And Bridge to Light is sort of a companion book for when you're reading Morals and Dogma, and it tries to explain a little bit more of the context. My opinion, you should get that one. If you're going to read Morals and Dogma, you should get Bridge of the Light. You should also 100% get Clausen's commentaries. So I'll kind of breeze through just a few of these pages for a couple minutes here, just mainly to show the badass illustrations that are on here. So here's the origin of the 33rd degree Scottish Rite Supreme Council, Charleston. Let's see. Little fold out map here. And this is kind of interesting. It shows you where Freemasonry sort of came, like where the origins of Freemasonry started, or at least the modern origins, right? So it kind of starts over here in the UK, French Freemasonry, and then it travels all the way over here. And then, interestingly enough, it goes to Jamaica, and then to Charleston, and then it heads up into here. which is Scottish Rite exists everywhere over the country, but there's a southern jurisdiction, there's a northern jurisdiction. So the southern jurisdiction kind of started as the bigger one and it spreads out, and the northern jurisdiction catches up later and it has less lodges in it. That's not really worth going into in complete detail here, but it is an interesting how there's this like northern and southern jurisdiction, and it actually means things. So Ark of the Covenant. Again, the artwork in this is so cool. This is basically the closest thing to a Scottish Rite comic book that's ever been created, as far as I'm aware. So it just goes degree by degree. Here's the fifth degree. And says the two kings lead the procession of workers from the vicinity of the temple to the new tomb. You got all these golden calves. And there's the Solomon's Temple with the two mushrooms out front. Yeah, look at these dudes in the spandex. This is a very specific type of superhero. Here's King Hiram about to kill the captain, prevented by Solomon. So there's King Solomon. He's got a Solomon's seal. This dude's summoning demons. And then Hiram Biff is being prevented from taking this dude out. Here's the seventh degree. And then here it says, law and justice administered by and for the workmen who built King Solomon's temple. So they had their own police system. Here's King Solomon interviewing 5 craftsmen and choosing Adoniram as the superintendent of the work of the completion of the temple. He's going, you got the job, kid. It doesn't pay well. Here you go, Elu with a 9th degree. You can get a badass little like He-Man looking sword here. And this is where the head chopping comes in. And it says here, King Solomon angrily assumed his order had disobeyed, but on learning the circumstances, he conceded his judgment was overly hasty. And that dude's got a bloody knife. Here's another one. Craftsmen apprehend and capture the remaining 2 murderers who had been working in the quarry in the mountainous country near Goth. This is one of the dudes that ends up taking out Hiram Abiff because they're trying to steal the secrets of the temple. Am I allowed to say that? King Solomon's porch of judgment. Upon the advice of his friend, King Hiram of Tyre, King Solomon chose 12 men to serve as governors or vice regents over the 12 tribes of Israel. And 12 signs of the zodiac I'll throw in there. It doesn't say that, but that's the connotation, I believe. And here we've got an overview of where the Temple of Solomon existed and all the other buildings in the area. Here's the 13th degree. Here is a workman finding the ineffable word. Ineffable because if you say it, your head explodes, essentially. I'm oversimplifying that. That was the word that JFK thought to himself that fateful day. It wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald. It was JFK was contemplating the ineffable word. I mean, he said it out loud. Chapter of the Rose Croix, a nod to Rosicrucianism, I believe. This is a Scottish Rite thing where I think they help incorporate some of the teachings of the Rosicrucianism, because Rosicrucianism was sort of a direct competition to Freemasons, especially in the 18th, 19th centuries, mostly 18th century. So kind of beat them to the punch. It's like, hey, you don't have to go over there. Walmart's got it all. You know, you can change your tires and get a burger and get a video game all in one place. That was kind of what Scottish Rite was doing in some ways as well. 16th degree. I'm not going to go through every single one of these pages. It's just really, really cool book. The only Scottish Rite book that I'm aware of that has badass 1970s comic book style illustrations for all these different degrees. So I highly recommend this one. And then I will just quickly browse through my favorite one. We'll probably do a separate issue on this. Art and Architecture of Freemasonry. I got this before I knew anything about anything, and it confused and fascinated me. But the coolest part about it is that this one actually goes to show that here's a trestle board. Here's these memory boards. that they bring up in lodge, and they'll use it to sort of do this whole presentation. And each one of these little symbols spikes this whole extra monologue of information that they bestow. But I don't want to get killed. I'm not going to say too much more. But the cool thing is that what this book does is they take these trestle boards, they take the arrangement and the symbolism and the geometry that are on these boards, and then say, well, that's actually happening in blueprints of the buildings that the Masons themselves create, the lodge rooms, and how the lodge rooms are sort of orchestrated. All of this, it's just macro and microcosm all the way down to the way that you stand with your feet, the angle that you position your feet when you're standing in a lodge also has a connotation to going all the way up into the macro. It's very much sympathetic magic. This is not in English, so I'm not going to try and read it, but this is a lodge room, and they're just showing the procession and how you would enter all the different parts of the temple. These are temple, I believe. Here are some schematics, and I've got another book that even goes into all these schematics, and they do the ratios. If you measure the sizes of like some rooms to other rooms, just the blueprints are encoded with all sorts of deep sacred geometry, mathematical equations. There's a book called Jesus Christ, Son of God, SUN of God, that goes into that. I'll do an entire episode on that one. It's one of my favorite books. And every time I bring it up, I don't know if anyone is as fascinated with it as I am. And that's why I've got my own show that you're listening to right now. This is exactly why this show exists, is because I am beyond fascinated by just looking at this type of imagery. And I guess there has never been a podcast where I was able to just tell everyone else to shut up and say like, hey, let's look at these schematics of Solomon's temple for an hour and a half. And now I got it. And thank you for being here with me. More schematics. Let's see what else we got in this book. Because it's divided into different chapters. This is the Tower of Babel, I'm assuming. Yep, Tower of Babel, showing masons preparing stone, hoisting blocks into position, and working on the flimsy cantilevered scaffolding at the top. The angels of heaven are distorting the speech of the men, so they start fighting up here. So as they make it all the way to the top, the angels distort their speech so that they can't understand each other. I can go into a whole freaking deep dive on that, but we'll save that. Look at this. This is incredible. This is the ceiling of a dome that kind of represents, and I don't even know. Is this Isis? I'm assuming this is Isis in the middle there holding up the star. Here we've got I guess this is where they do the inside the inside sacrifices. So here's how you can safely do burning rituals in a building, I guess, and then it just comes out the chimney. This is wild. Are those the underground tunnels in New York, maybe? I don't know. This is one of the coolest images in this entire book, to be honest. It looks like one of those things you would draw as you're like building out your little your secret lair. This looks like Epcot, doesn't it? I don't know if you've ever been to Epcot, Disney. It kind of looks like that geodesic dome. And then here they've got this artificial, man. Is this Tartaria? Is this flat Earth simulation? Because you can see here's the people, right? They walk into this huge dome, and then once you're in here, it's basically a simulated sky with moon and stars and everything. This is from 1784. So someone in 1784 sat down and basically created NASA. Shout out NASA. And then here's another Hiram Abiff, I assume. Maybe that was King Solomon. And then we've got all these little pyramids people get buried in. This is probably like Plato's cave, maybe. Let's see. Cavern in the little park of the Garden of Isis. Oh, is this a real place? That would be wild if this was actually real. So this is Arts and Architecture of Freemasonry. We've been going at this for a little while. chosenone.com. If you haven't already checked this out, if you like all this weird, esoteric, arcane information, just look what's in here. We've got Abraxas. This comic, if you haven't read it, The Chosen One versus the Saturnian Cube, it's essentially about 3 podcasters that are into conspiracy theories and occult research. Shout out Juan Ayala. This is Mark Steves from My Family Thinks I'm Crazy. This is Chris Prosser, who I think has disappeared from the face of the earth by now. And they find these powers that were supposed to be given to the elite, but it was accidentally delivered to Juan in his backyard because they used Amazon Prime, and Amazon Prime doesn't always do the best shipping. So he ends up with this, and I'm not joking, he's got this big Abraxas Prime delivery that just shows up in his backyard, and it gives him special abilities. And I'm not going to get into the rest of it because that's why you have to go to chosenone.com. And if you go to chosenone.com, you'll find issue 2 where you can back it, but you'll also have a way to add issue 1 to your order. And then as soon as all of that's been raised and the comics have been printed, you go to chosenone.com in the future. If you're watching this now and it's, I don't know, April or May or later, you can go to chosenone.com and it'll bring you to where you can get a copy directly on paranoidamerican.com. And while you're there, you should check out all the other cool stuff that we've got. There's also the Occult Book Club podcast that I do with Juan, where we break down books in way more detail. Like here on Paranoid Pages, it's mostly a visual thing to show all the cool little images and like the dates and the names and stuff. But on Occult Book Club, we kind of do it like an official book club. We read the book beginning to end, take lots of notes, come up with all sorts of observations, and then we'll usually talk about that book for hell, like 2-3, we've got some 4+ hour episodes. We try not to as much, but it's one of the coolest series that you'll find on YouTube, Occult Book Club. That's been another episode of Paranoid Pages. If you guys have got other suggestions, I was thinking that maybe next one of these, it'll be completely different. I might just thumb through some old books of like CDs from the 90s, like old CD books of just various music, and maybe talk about the cover art and my favorite tracks on them, just to keep this series a little bit unpredictable, because trust me when I've got plenty of books that we can cover, but I want to show a few different things, keep you guys guessing. So if you got any other suggestions, books, magazines, comics, anything at all that would make a good fit for Paranoid Pages, let me know in the comments. And if you like this content and you want even more, I've got so much more coming. Please join the Patreon. Patreon is basically where I get a good judge of which series I should keep pursuing, which ones maybe I put on the back burner. If I'm going to do book reviews, movie reviews, game reviews, it gives you a chance to suggest your favorite game, book, movie, TV show. I've also got a new series that I'll just tell you about it. It's going to be called Saturday Morning Conspiracies, and we're going to be breaking down all like the 80s and 90s Saturday morning cartoons, the occult connections, the backstories. The very first episode's going to be on He-Man and the connection to maybe the sun god. Maybe He-Man is a Knights Templar. He kind of represents this Christ with this red cross. If that sounds interesting, please give me a like, please give me a follow, paranoidamerican.com. And I guess on the way out, we're going to pump you full of another Chosen One ad, followed by a sticker sheet ad. Thank you. Come back for more.
chosenone.com. Go visit chosenone.com. It's easy to remember if you just sing along. chosenone.com. Go visit chosenone.com. The chosen one, yes, he is a chosen one. He's got his own comic, and now he's got his own song. 'Cause he's a chosen one. Yes, he is a chosen one. Go buy a copy at chosenone.com. chosenone.com. Go visit chosenone.com. It's easy to remember if you just sing along. chosenone.com. Go visit chosenone.com. We know, but never American stickers. Cryptids, cults, and killers. Seek out all your favorite conspiracies. All the land and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers. They'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret societies. All of these and more on our sticker sheets.
Explore the unique with Paranoid American sticker sheets. Unearth tales of cryptids, cults, and mysteries through each sticker. These won't last long. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.
We're all American stickers. Cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies. All the land and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers. They'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret societies. All of these and more on our sticker sheets.
What the heck are you waiting for? Discover the extraordinary with Paranoid American sticker sheets. From cryptids in the night to cults out of sight, each sticker is a unique find. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.